Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. Are you thinking about going on a cruise? Well, the travel news section at the end of the show includes the latest survey. Yes, I've got another survey on the show, which shows which cruise lines and cruise ships were preferred by the Brits over the last 12 months. But before that, we're going to find out about a company called Political Tours. I came across this company while looking at a free magazine I picked up at Luton Airport. They had a full-page advert on the back of the magazine. And it intrigued me because when I go on holiday, I like to know about the local area. I always try and get the local papers, which can be a problem sometimes. And I wondered what sort of tours they did. So I popped down to their office, or popped up, depending on how you look at geography, to speak to Nicholas Wood and Karen Davey, who run the company, to find out more about what they do and what they offer. So the first one we're going to find out is who came up with the idea of Political Tours.
I used to be a journalist, and best job in the world. Go anywhere, ask any questions you like, and it's an amazing experience. And I did that in the Balkans, and I would have family come and visit me, and sometimes they'd follow me along to what I was doing, and they thought it was amazing too. And that's really the basic concept. After doing this I did about 10 years there. I worked as a journalist for about 20 years. And I thought, well, why not? Why aren't there political tours already? Why can't you go out and do something similar? And so that I had that thought in about 2007, but it took me until about 2011 to set up the company.
What was the very first tour you did?
We did a tour in Bosnia and Serbia, because that was my sort of stamping ground and the area I knew very well. And for a couple of years between 2009 and 2011, I'd run sort of guinea pig or sort of dummy tours, if you like, with groups of people who wanted to know more about the Balkans. These were politicians, journalists, sometimes students. So those had been set up through different organisations, but not as that wasn't as a travel company. And then 2011 we set up the travel company, and the first tour was in Bosnia and Serbia, and we had a group of people from all over, and that's really remained the same. The sizes of the tours have remained the same, about sort of 10, 11 people, with people from the US, Australia, UK and Europe. It's a nice mix of people.
So when you publicised the very first tour, you were advertising internationally, or were you just advertising in the UK?
We set up a website, and that's so obviously anybody could search for that on the web. We'd had a bit of publicity in the UK in the Financial Times, and being a sort of startup, we didn't have money to spend on advertising, so we didn't have advertising. Just people came to us, and it's really gone on from there.
So it showed there was a real need for it if people come across and found you without your advertising.
Exactly. And then that very first tour was covered by the FT. We had Kate Adie on it, who I knew from my work when I worked in the Balkans. And I think that helped to attract some people to come on the tour. But the interest in it afterwards, and the people who were on the tour weren't really interested in Kate Adie. Some of them didn't know who she was, because they were from lots of other countries. But the FT article garnered a lot of interest, and it's sort of grown gradually from there.
Do you still do that same tour?
No, we don't, and this is a really interesting thing. Our problem, as well as our advantage, is that we've got a very loyal group of customers. Basically, if you come do a political tour, I'm very certain you'll be coming back to do many more afterwards. And the problem is all of our customers have done Bosnia and Serbia, all those who are interested, and they want new tours. So it's like a sort of monster chewing all these things up. They go through these different destinations and want new ones. And our aim as we get bigger is to say, look, we spend a lot of time working on those places, and we'd love to go back there again. So we're trying to grow your customer base so that you can run those go back to those places again.
With the uniqueness of your tours and so many repeat customers, it must be a lot of pressure trying to better what they had before. So how much work is involved in putting a tour together? Well,
I think the first thing to understand is that we don't travel like any other travel company. And here, this is a trade secret. All the big travel companies, and actually most of the small ones too, work with something called a destination management company. They are not running the tour for you. They are getting a company in that country, plus guides in that country, to run everything for you. So they'll set up the bus, they'll set up the hotels, they'll get local guides, and that product is available to Cox and Kings, Abercrombie and Kent, Thomas Cook, whoever. And that's what all companies do worldwide. There are very few companies that actually set up everything by themselves, and that's what we do. That's the first point. The second point is that the experience we're trying to create, and this is why we don't use a destination management company, it's like being in a documentary. So it's as though you're there with a camera team running this investigation, trying to uncover this story. And that means you're not on a bus, or you're not wandering around museums or sitting by a swimming pool. You're actually there living and breathing the place. And so it's a real adventure. And if you've got those ingredients there, if you've got the ingredients of a documentary, you can go from one place to another place to each country. You've got the same thing and people are blown away. There's a consistency there to that adventure. And that gives people a real buzz.
Well, you're talking about having your own people on the ground doing it itself. I can only think of one other company that does that, and that was for safaris, and it makes such a difference because it's the same people all the way through. And when you go to a big company, you do get problems because they don't really care about the other one. So that sounds impressive.
Yeah, it's we really value that personal contact as well, and I think it's difficult. We actually know and like our customers very much, and we all meet up with them socially. And a lot of them meet up socially afterwards. They get back together again. So it is very personal. And you'd lose that if you start sort of handing that out to a company that you hardly know.
What about my phone call? I want to call my family.
Too late now.
Please.
Step through now, please.
Oh, no.
Too late now.
Here's the goods. You take them in false bottom bag, you strap them to your body, it's up to you.
Look, I've changed my mind. I want out.
Too late now.
So, you're offering me a free holiday?
Yeah,
I just have to bring back something for a friend of yours.
that's right. You get some serious cash.
Right.
Well,
Not too late. Don't get talked into trafficking drugs. Once you're in, the British government can't get you out. Don't throw your life away.
You're listening to The Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. Still to come on this show, there's travel news, including the popular cruise lines and destinations as voted for by British cruise enthusiasts. As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, my worst ever travel experience was on a cruise ship. If you haven't heard the story, I went there as a competition winner when I was a travel agent, and it didn't cater for my diet or my teetotalness at the time. And if I could have got off the cruise ship, I would have done. Luckily, it was just one night round the Isle of Wight. I couldn't have hacked it for a week or so. But there are loads of people go on one cruise, they're hooked, and they're booking up before they've even got off the ship. They're booking their next holiday. But before all that, we're finding out about the company called Political Tours. We're looking into what they offer people. We've covered the basics and why the company was started. And before the break, it was mentioned that they have their own people on the ground. They don't use third parties to put the ground bits together. And if you go on holiday, you may have noticed that, or even when you get to the airport, you go and check into an airline, and the person who's checking you in doesn't actually work for the airline. There's somebody who's been contracted in. And sometimes that is apparent with this level of service. And when you go around the world, you can get totally different levels of service from the same airline because of the way they contract their staff in. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. We're going to find out now about Political Tours and how they handle, by using their own team, people with specific requirements, and also if there's any accessibility issues for some of the destinations they cover. Because you're so hands-on with the customers. Can you cope with people with fussy needs such as me? I'm a vegan, so I only want to eat vegan food. Somebody might have an accessibility issue. Is all that taken care of?
Well, you've got to. I mean, I would say with one proviso, a lot of the places we go to are got off the beaten track. So we've just been to Lebanon, and Lebanon's a very complex place, and we want to introduce people to the complexities of it. So we look at the Palestinian refugees, because that's part of the reason why the civil war broke out, is that there were hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who left the occupied territories and are now living in refugee camps. So we take people into those refugee camps that have been there for decades. So they're really like tenements. Now, you couldn't get in there with a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. You couldn't, if you've got somebody who can only walk 10, 15 metres, it's going to be very difficult. So you do have to have a degree of fitness. We can create bespoke tours, and we do this. So we have actually, my car and myself had the experience of actually taking my father around with a wheelchair, setting up a tour bespoke for him, and we can do that for other people. But it does generally, with the group tours you've got to have a degree of mobility in order to do it. With food allergies, if people let us know, that's absolutely fine. We just got to be careful. Nuts is one of the trickiest things. Many of the places we go to, there's a lot of nuts everywhere. Yeah.
You went to the refugees with the Palestinians. Does that cause you any problems with local authorities going backwards and forwards? You would imagine something. Seeing the news, you see it very black and white. It's terrible. But is it as bad as it's portrayed? Is it quite easy getting around to see these sort of things?
Most of the places we go to are conventional tourist destinations. It's just the way we do it that's different. So we research our tours well in advance. We work with people who are journalists or people who know the region very, very well. And so our local contacts, local communication and information is very, very important. And if you have that in hand, you should be able to go around a country without any problem. In some places you do have to get passes to go to a particular area. But that's fine. We can do that. We can negotiate well ahead. But we don't just do those places that you might think of as being a bit more risky. So we've just done Lebanon. We do Israel and Palestine. But we're going to be in France in May for the French elections. We were in the USA for the presidential elections. Russia is a normal tourist destination. We just happen to be looking at President Putin and his power. And then we're going to the Baltic states. We're looking at NATO and the threat of Russia there. The Baltic states are, people do cruises to those ports. It's a standard destination. It's just our approach that's different.
We're also doing South Africa this year. Lots of people go there for holidays that aren't political tours. And we did the US elections last year, which was a fantastic tour. And